Hi guys, thank you so much for watching. This is Maggie from MargaretStevens.co, and we've got Dell from code2wellness.com. And what we're doing today is we're going to be bringing you another luscious topic and a mini deep dive that is, part of our retreat that we're hosting in Tampa in person in January. The links for everything will be below this video, so make sure you go to the website, look at the retreat, and you buy your ticket as soon as possible, because once we are sold out, that is it. There is no more fitting people in the group. We wanted to keep it small. We wanted to keep it, very cozy and very impactful. So buy your tickets ASAP. But today we're going to be diving into a little bit of what Dell loves to talk about, which obviously is food and movement, but we're going to kind of talk about it in a different way. We're going to be talking about food and batching, which has a bunch of things that people talk about, but I really love that she's talking about this topic because there's so many amazing resources and just tips that you'll get and misconceptions that we get to bust so that you can make running your business and building your empire, that much better and that much smoother. So, Del?
Yeah, thank you for that awesome intro, Maggie.
Yeah.
So batching
Yes.
your food. So maybe we should start with, why you would actually want to batch.
Okay.
Reason to batch, it can save you a lot of time, especially when your schedule is really nuts and you're the kind of person that's like, oh my God, I don't even have 20 minutes to, be in the kitchen and cook myself dinner, let alone my family of 4.
Yeah.
Right? So batching can save you time, which can also save you energy. It can save you from decision-making fatigue, having to pick out your food again and again and again throughout the day, which often can be a real big issue for people who are, trying to stick to a certain food philosophy, whether it's because you need to lose weight or because you need to heal your gut, or for any other reason.
Mm-hmm.
It makes it easier to adhere to eating and living a certain lifestyle. Those are a couple of the top reasons. I'm sure a few more will roll out as we keep chatting, but
so let me ask this. You've gone over why someone would even want to consider batching.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start out with your top 3 favorite things that you batch.
Okay. So there's a few different ways to batch. You can either batch everything all at once, like maybe you'll pick a day, Sunday.
Yeah.
Popular day. It doesn't have to be that day, but let's just say, for example, that it is. You can batch every single one of your meals, or you can batch some things that you're going to use throughout the week and maybe cook some things throughout the week, or maybe if you go out to dinner once or twice or whatever. In my family, there are very few weeks where we batch every single meal.
Okay.
Because I love to cook and some of that time is relaxing for me. I like to be in the kitchen creating, recipe developing and stuff like that. It's part of what I do. I have a lot of food recipes on my site, real food recipes, I call them, on my website. So it would actually be more stressful for me to batch every single meal than it would to batch some and not others.
Okay.
For some people, it's going to be a different situation. So I wanted to break that down first before I say what I batch.
Okay, good point.
Not every single meal. But things that we traditionally batch in my house is my husband loves granola. So he will batch make a huge pan of gluten-free granola where he adds in his gluten-free oats and some nuts and seeds and coconuts, raisins, whatever. He'll put that together on a few different sheet pans, bake it, at the beginning of the week, and then we'll store it in a big old glass jar, and he can eat that as his breakfast throughout the week. I like to batch proteins.
Okay.
We don't eat in our household too many deli meats because they can be filled with, wow, I just got this pen stuck in my hair. They can be filled with a lot of preservatives, nitrates, and nitrites that are linked to headaches and gut issues and a lot of related things. So we keep those to a minimum. So instead, if we're going to make wraps or something like that, I try and batch proteins. And one of the things that I do is I'll roast up a whole chicken.
Ooh.
Sunday is usually my day for that. But I'll roast up a whole chicken. It doesn't take a lot of prep, you know, and then I can break it apart when it's done. I can shred it. I can keep certain pieces that I might use for dinner, shred some of it and use that in sandwiches or in other places. So I find batching proteins like a whole roasted chicken to be really, really helpful because if you're looking to add it into your meal, you know, shredded chicken is very easy to toss into, you know, some zucchini noodle pasta or into your, you know, wrap or something like that. So I really like to batch proteins. You could easily do that, like make a stew, another way to batch a protein, with lots of bones in it, because those cuts of meat that tend to have bones in them are cheap, are going to be cheaper than the ones that don't.
Yeah.
But they also tend to be tougher cuts of meat that need to be cooked low and slow, as we say. So if you have a slow cooker, you know, go to the store and maybe buy 2 pounds of short ribs. Or last week at my Whole Foods, the lamb shoulder was like 100% grass-fed for $5.99 pounds. So I bought up like 2 pounds of it, tossed it in my slow cooker with some root vegetables, just let it cook, you know, overnight, about 12 hours or so. And that's some more meat that I can use in other places if I wanted to. I can eat the stew just as it is. I could pull out, you know, some of the meat and shred it and use it. And I've been obsessed lately with breakfast tacos, you know, and here. So you can use it in a lot of different ways. You could throw it into a lasagna, you know, another great thing to batch throughout the week. Those are a few things that we have been batching habitually. I know things that other people love to batch are like a lasagna.
Okay.
Or enchiladas. There, you know, if you need a gluten-free option, there's tons of gluten-free options to do that. If you need a low-carb option, there's tons of ways to like zoodle or noodle, you know, 6 slices of veggies so that you can create stuff like that. And we'll give some recipe examples below of awesome things that you can batch. They might not be these exact things that we're talking about, but we'll give some great recipes for batching below.
Good. Well, and I do want to point out one thing. Like, you're talking about all this batching, and you have a baby. So you're not some like waspy person that like just goes to work and la-di-das and comes home and has all this like crazy time. I mean, I love getting tips from someone that is actually in the trenches and, you know, having a young baby. You know, you actually are pretty much like the perfect person to talk about, you know, making sure you have really great options when your schedule is kind of not your own anymore.
It's true. I mean, options are, you know, you have to really, and you'll talk about this in another video, but you have to really be careful with how you spend your time, where you delegate your tasks and what your priorities are and stuff like that. So I find that when I am cooking, if it's just me and my son, his baby is 5 months old right now. And if it's just us two together and I need to cook something, I mean, I probably have 20 minutes where I can set him down and make something. That's not a lot of time, even though it's a lot more time than maybe some other people have. But it's not a lot of time to like chop something up and toss it in a pan and mix it with something else. Granted, you can make a ton of stuff like that, but that tends to be how my days are right now. So I'm not making extravagant meals in general, like maybe once, maybe twice a week where I have a little bit of help. But so anyways, got off a little bit of a tangent.
I love it.
Yeah. Another thing that's really fantastic to batch, this one's easy, and it also doesn't take a lot of time, is breakfast smoothies. So you can make what's called a smoothie in a bag. So let's say you're going to toss in maybe avocado, maybe some kale, maybe a banana, blueberries, ginger, something like that, right? In coconut milk. Let's say you're going to throw those things into your smoothie. But one of the things that stops you from making a healthy smoothie in the morning or afternoon is that you have to like reach for all these things in the morning and then put them all away.
Yeah.
And the 5 or the 10 minutes that it takes you is just too much.
Yeah.
Which is understandable, you know? So what you can do is you can, you know, on your Sunday, on your whatever day that you're prepping, you can take 5 plastic bags, or if you're like Maggie and I and you like to use glass, your 5 glass containers, fill them with the things that you would put in your smoothie, and then put them in the freezer, right? So add in your kale, your banana, your coconut milk, your avocado, whatever it is, into that container, the plastic bag or the glass, and then put it right into the freezer. You know, do that for 5 days or 7 days or however many times you're going to eat it throughout the week. That way, when you go to make your smoothie, you can just easily pull it out of the freezer and toss it right into your blender. And that makes it very quick and easy. You know, if you're going to add a protein powder in there, you probably don't want to freeze that.
No.
But it's the one thing that you need to grab and toss in there, as opposed to the 9. Right?
Yes.
So that's a really quick, easy way to make a quick, easy meal even easier and quicker.
Well, and the other thing too, I've noticed from taking that advice and batching smoothies, is that when you go grocery shopping, say on the Sunday, and you batch all your smoothies, you don't have to worry about the food going bad because you haven't gotten to it by Wednesday or Thursday. You know, so that banana is literally going to be at the perfect ripeness of what you like when you go to do the smoothie, versus, oh, it's kind of mushy, I'm not going to do it. And then you run into this whole like tangent of like, there goes breakfast because the banana was wrong. So that's a nice perk.
It saves you money, and it saves you the stress of, if you're like me and you hate throwing out food, the stress of guilt that comes with throwing away food that didn't get used, right? Which is very sad because you threw away money, and sad because, you know, there's so many people in the world that don't have that
luxury,
that privilege to throw away food, you know?
Yeah. So let me ask this then. What are your, because you've alluded to breakfast, you've alluded to a couple of your 3 favorite things. I love the topic that we're kind of leading into, which is like fast stuff to batch. So give me a couple of like snack examples to batch, because that's another thing that we've talked about in the past. Most people don't think like batch your snacks, you know, make healthy options even healthier and even easier for people that aren't you or you to have whenever they want. So talk about some snack options.
Definitely dips plus vegetables.
Okay.
Very easy to batch. So let's use hummus as an example dip, right? Easy to make, also easy to buy. I like homemade. It'll take you 2 minutes to make. And then it will initially take you some time to chop up the veggies that you would dip in there. Let's say red pepper is a great example, tomato, zucchini, cucumber. Those are easy things. Carrots, easy things that you can dip in there. You know, it will take you some time initially to chop up those vegetables, but once they're chopped up, you know, save them in your glass containers or your Ziploc bags, save them in the fridge, and then all you have to, it's healthy food that's grab and go. You know, you reach into your fridge, you grab, let's say your red peppers or whatever, you grab your hummus dip, and there you go. You've got a small meal, or, you know, or even a snack that's got some healthy fats, some great veggies in there, and also some protein. You get a nice mix of all of the macronutrients in there, which is, you know, part of the reason we're talking about this is because we want you to not go hungry, and we want you to have sustainable energy so that you can actually harness your, you know, your best creative side and move forward in your business and enjoy your life at the same time, right? We don't want you to be sacrificing your health. So anyways, but the concept is dips, you know, and healthy things that you can dip into those dips. So I use hummus as an example. It could be almond butter. It could be guacamole. It could be salsa, you know, something like that, right? Also, you know, you could take it to the next level, and you could portion control. If you need help, if part of your goal is weight loss, right, you can easily portion control as a piece of the whole batching experience. So let's say you want some tortilla chips, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe some sprouted tortilla chips or something like that. So you go to the store, you buy a whole bag.
Yeah.
You know that if you open that whole bag, you're going to eat 3/4 of it.
Yeah.
Instead of the portion that you meant to eat, right? So what you can do is take that whole bag home and then divide that up into, little Ziploc bags with the portion that you actually want. Save them in your cubby, in your, wherever you save them. And then when you go to pull those out and dip them into your salsa or your guac or whatever it is that you made, they're good with hummus too. It's like it's already kind of pre-planned for you, and you can feel good about having that as a snack, as opposed to spending time beating yourself up for eating a certain way, eating a certain thing a certain way, and then spending that time that could have been productive towards working on your business, being creative, being productive in your projects. You spend that time beating yourself up instead of spending it actually putting your energy where it needs to be going, and not on and not on telling yourself, reasons why you're not good enough, because we all have enough of that message, and you don't need that at all. So I gave the example of sprouted tortilla chips. You could easily do that with a number of things. You could easily do that with nuts. Maybe you have the same thing with nuts. I love my mom, and I don't mean to throw her under the bus, but she would totally agree with me in saying that she cannot be around a bag of nuts. She has to portion control it out for herself. Otherwise, it's like the jar is just gone.
I do the same thing. I used to do that with peanuts a lot. And I'm like, oh my God, why is like a whole thing of peanuts lasting me like a day and a half, So I agree with portion controlling your batching. Like, I love that.
And we all seem to kind of have our thing is that we need to be aware of that could send us into a downward spiral, right?
Yeah.
For some people, it's the ice cream. For some people, it's the chips, it's the nuts, it's whatever that thing is. So if you're going to have it around the house, you can batch it. And hopefully, you don't have a thing that sends you into a tizzy around the house. But either way, I mean, nuts, tortilla chips, those are great examples of things that you could divide up into snack size packs, grab and take with you to work, or just if you work from home, grab at the time that you're going to have a snack, and again, feel good, feel energized about that choice that you've made, and then just get back to the other stuff that really matters,
well,
which is your work.
I do want to say one thing that I've noticed throughout the conversation, and something I've noticed we've talked about in the past in general. When you're batching, you are getting more of a variety. So I'm noticing all the things that you're recommending in batching, like that's a bigger variety of food than you would normally be eating if you're trying to make the decision and cook everything all day, every day. While you're like, okay, I'm hungry now, let me make dinner. And you maybe, it might be easier to do the same variation over and over again. Versus what you're explaining, you could do guacamole dips one week, hummus dips one week, salsa dips one week, so right then and there, you're getting a variety of fruits and vegetables into your body. So have you noticed that you get more of a variety when you're batching?
I've noticed both things in both directions. It depends on the person. Like, there are some people that are totally fine with eating the same thing for every meal.
Yeah.
Sometimes my husband can be a little bit like that. I can't. I'm like, oh my God, I gotta change, except for breakfast tacos. I'm like, I need something. So for whatever reason, I'm on that breakfast taco kick lately. But the truth is that if you do it the way that I explained, and you batch certain things so that you can easily insert them into a sandwich, like roasting the chicken, or you cut up a bunch of vegetables that you can dip into hummus, you have a huge potential to have a lot of variety and to take in a lot more vegetables, because that tends to be an issue for so many people, is like, oh, I need more vegetables. Here's one easy way to get that variety in there, is to make some stews, to cut up some veggies that you can dip into your hummus, your guac, your almond butter, whatever it might be. So yes, I mean, I would say that there is a huge potential to have variety. And I think that happens to be one of the bad raps that batching would get, is that like, oh my God, you're going to end up eating the same thing every day. You can, if you end up batching that way and you're like, okay, Monday through Friday, I'm going to have this smoothie for breakfast. Monday through Friday, I'm going to have this wrap for lunch. You can, and for some people, that's just easier to make, to have the same thing every day. But I mean, from a health perspective, in general, variety is going to serve you better. And so this is a way that there are many ways that you can get in a ton of variety there while you're batching, and I named a few earlier.
Okay. So the last thing I want to definitely wrap up with is one of the biggest misconceptions, and maybe you can even bring it up. But like, what do you feel is like the biggest misconception around batching, and like, how do you bust through that?
Probably the biggest, I would say there's probably two misconceptions. Okay. Two huge misconceptions would be that it's expensive because you're buying everything up front in bulk.
Okay.
And the other big misconception is that it takes a ton of time.
Okay.
So the answer, as always, is it depends. It doesn't need to take a ton of time. Again, if you're the person who needs to sit down and make a meal plan for all 7 days of the week, every meal and snack, that is going to take you some time.
Yeah.
For some people, that's going to bring them peace of mind, because that takes away the need to make those decisions throughout the week, and then they can spend that decision-making energy on other stuff, right? But that's only one way to batch. Like I said, in my household, we don't batch every single meal. We'll batch certain things that make it easier to put a meal together, and maybe we'll batch a meal. Like I said, my husband will batch make the granola, and that the gluten-free granola, and that is going to be his breakfast some or most days of the week that he does it. I'll batch make the whole roasted chicken, and we're going to toss that stuff into a couple of different things, wraps or zucchini pasta or whatever. So that to roast a whole roast chicken doesn't take me a lot of time. I mean, basically I'm marinating it, with some spices, and oil, coconut oil, lemon juice, garlic, that kind of thing. And then I'm tossing it into the oven for about an hour and a half, right? And I'm not even thinking about it until the timer goes off. So that didn't take me a whole lot of time. Yes, it'll take a bit of time to kind of shred it if I even decide to shred it. But if I don't, all I have to do is toss it into a container and put it in my fridge, right? So, it depends what you're trying to accomplish, but that doesn't take a lot of time at all. Same thing with making gluten-free granola. That's, you're mixing maybe 6-7 ingredients together and tossing them on a sheet pan and leaving it in the oven for like 30 minutes. It's not a lot of time. It's not a lot of effort, and you get a lot of bang for your buck. Same thing with smoothies, putting those into your freezer bags. I mean, you can probably make 5 of those bags in 10 to 12 minutes if you've just come home from the grocery store with those ingredients, and if you kind of have the smoothie that you're going to make already planned ahead. That, to me, that's not a lot of time.
Yeah.
I could spend minutes like goofing off on Facebook or Instagram or something like that. Or I could spend 10 minutes putting together a smoothie bag, smoothie bags for the week. So it doesn't have to take a lot of time. You don't have to batch everything. You can batch some things, and that will save you a ton of time, right? So it kind of depends on like what is going to work best for your situation. I think I said at the beginning, we batch some things because it's so helpful for us, and we leave some things to be cooked in the moment because we like to do that, right? It's a nice mix of having pre-planning and also having some of the in the moment joy that comes from cooking, right? So if you like to do that, if you like to cook, then you'll probably want some freedom, kind of like what we've got. But if your schedule is so packed, maybe you're doing a lot of travel during the day and you pretty much are gone from 7 a.m. to like 8 p.m., then batching most of your meals is probably going to serve you a lot better, you know?
Yeah.
So, consider your situation. And even so, if you need to batch all of your meals, it doesn't have to take you forever. I think a lot of times in different blogs or posts, people will be like, oh, I batched, this super complicated recipe and this super complicated recipe and this super complicated recipe. And you can totally do that. It's wonderful, but it's going to take you time.
Yeah.
So if you want to spend less time but prep for the entire week, then you need to look for simple things, frittata, or maybe a quiche, gluten-free if you need to do that, or a very simple lasagna, all of those things can have balanced macronutrients, your healthy fats, your healthy carbs, your healthy protein, without having to be very extravagant. So if you want to batch every meal, you want to look for recipes that are not going to be super, super involved. Now, if you like to cook, maybe you want one involved recipe and the other ones are simple. So again, take that into consideration. If you make the simple recipes, also, I said one of the misconceptions is money. That'll be very expensive. If you make simple recipes, you're not going to spend a ton of money. If you make involved recipes that have a lot of ingredients, you're going to spend more money. Yeah. So that piece of the equation too. More ingredients, unless you've already got them lying around the house, generally is going to cost you more. Fewer ingredients tends to cost you less and tends to take less time, right?
Yeah.
So those are a few things to consider.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. And I like to say, just like Del was saying, when it comes to batching, even for us personally, we in our household, I'll batch a couple things throughout the week. I don't batch every single meal, but depending on the season of where our business is, because we do run multiple businesses, there is busy seasons and there are slower seasons. So I normally try and take it a step further. And during my busy seasons, I try and batch more so, like maybe a 60-40 split of batching versus non-batching. During busy season versus when it's not busy season, I'll do maybe 10 to 20% batching. So, you're not, like what Del was saying, you're not locked into, just because you're batching, like you have to do this till the day you die. Use it as a tool, just like everything else we're teaching you and talking about, so that as your life is fluctuating and changing and you're responding to your business and your personal life, you've got the tools necessary to go ahead and respond with ease versus responding with stress.
Yes. And, we live in a very all or nothing culture. Like,
yes, I hate it.
Or go home, batch all your meals or batch nothing and be a complete mess.
Yeah.
It's just not the truth. You don't have to be one or the other. You can save time by batching only 3 meals in your week and cooking the rest, or eating out some and cooking. And you can save time by batching them all. You can find yourself along the spectrum and still be freeing up time to be productive in your business. Mm-hmm. You can experiment with how much you want to batch and what works for you. But I love what Maggie was saying about busy season, we batch more.
Yeah.
Less busy, we batch a little bit less.
Yes.
So that's definitely something to consider. And there is one more thing that I wanted to mention. There are some services that actually prep meals for you, healthy meals for you. Mm-hmm. And some of them make the meal all together for you. Like there's a great service called Peeps Paleo that makes healthy paleo recipes. Meals, and sends them to your house. You can purchase a certain amount of them and put them in your freezer and then cook them up on the stove or oven or whatever. So that's a done for you meal. And that's also another way to batch, is to buy some of your meals already prepared. Like let's say you do that, you budget it out. So it's going to be, okay, 3 meals out of the week I'm going to eat, from this particular meal service that I'm buying from. These other 3 days of the week, I'm going to cook, right? Yeah. So that's another way to batch. And there's another service And there's quite a few like this. The only one that comes to mind for the moment is HelloFresh.
Yeah, I've used them in the past.
Okay. I know that they're not completely organic, but maybe they have some non-GMO stuff or something like that. I think there's one called Blue Apron. That kind of thing. But I know with HelloFresh, for instance, and I'm not marketing for either of these people. They're just names that come to mind. But they'll actually send you some recipes that you can choose from. And then you can choose those meals, and they'll send you the ingredients measured out to a T, plus the instructions, so that you can follow the instructions and make the meal without you having to go to the store. They just actually send you the box of ingredients and stuff all in the mail, and then all you have to do is just follow the recipes. So you can kind of get a little bit of the best of both worlds if you want that too. I had heard that I'm not sure if they chop all the vegetables or ingredients or whatever. I've heard there's other services that will chop and portion things out. So I have a neighbor that actually does something like that, and she's bought three meals a week for her family, and she'll just do that, and then she'll do the rest of the grocery shopping for other things. And it's like it's under $100 per week, at least the way that she does it. So the way she looks at it is, I'm saving a lot of money doing this as opposed to eating out with my family.
I mean, we've done HelloFresh in the past, and the reason why we liked it in the past was it was a really good way to just get a variety of cooking. So there was new recipes that we were trying out. There was new ingredients we were trying out. There was, we found out that Ben liked quinoa, which he never would have tried it beforehand. And, I didn't have to buy like a whole bag of quinoa to try it. So there's definite, benefits if you do variations of batching. The whole point, save you time, save you money, give you more brain juice to do whatever you want to do, whether it's spend time with your family or work on your business. So
and there are weeks where that could be so important for you.
Like a launch,
a baby,
or a launch week,
or if you're doing a launch for a business or something like that. Which actually reminds me, there is one other thing that we consistently batch almost every week. I have an Instapot. I definitely recommend one. And again, I'm not an affiliate for them at all, but I use mine so frequently. We consistently make a wild rice blend. So it'll have like wild rice, red rice, sprouted brown rice, but that'll all be blended together, and we'll make a big batch of it so that we can use it in the stew that we batch also, that I talked about earlier, or, to go with the whole roasted chicken that we batched that I was talking about earlier, or to go in any number of other things, maybe you're making frittata or whatever. But that's, like a very healthy carbohydrate option for our family. So we like to batch that as well.
Love it. Love it. So I want to thank you, Del, for your time, and I want to thank you for watching us talk about batching. And in regards to health, it doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be time consuming. There's going to be a ton of resources below. Now, if you're watching this on social media, Facebook, Instagram, make sure you click on the link below and sign up for the newsletter. That's where you will see all of the resources. If you're watching this in the email, just make sure you look a little further down and you'll see all the resources that we were talking about, and maybe a few bonus ones. You'll see that all in the newsletter below. So thank you so much for your time, and don't forget to sign up for that class so that you can be one of the 25 before we sell out. Bye, guys.
Bye.